All right. Shalom. All right, coming back again with another lesson. This is Brother Yara. All right. I'm going to title this lesson, Thanksgiving Isn't a Holiday. All right. Thanksgiving isn't a holiday. Why is that? Because this day where people feast and eat, all right, is a day where this nation rape, robbed, and murdered the indigenous people that were here, all right, which will be the Indians, all right, the indigenous Indians, Seminole Indians, the Cherokee, the Creek, so forth and so on, all right, but they were Hebrew Israelites. And without further ado, let's give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Chakwadash, all right, which we know is that the Heavenly Father and His Son's name, which is the true ancient pillar of Hebrew tongue, the Lord spoken, ancient of days, which today this world ignorantly calls God and Jesus Christ. All right. And I'm going to give double honors to the elders and apostles across the four corners of the earth. All right. So which I know where the truth lies. All right. And salutations to the head of my camp, my elder Chazak. All right, who I teach on in the Camp of Men of Israel here in Greenville, South Carolina. And shalom to Akko and Akwai, men and women who believe in our testimonies and its truth. All right, keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability in these last days in the stranger's land. All right, being oppressed. All right, by the wicked, you saw Edom. All right, which ruleth, which is the wicked of the earth, so-called white man. All right, who sits up high. All right, and ruleth. All right, with the sword. Okay, but without further ado, let's get into this lesson. And I got some articles I wanted to get into, based off the history of why this is important, which we must know and remind ourselves each time this comes up. All right, so let's get to it. All right, and this is one article, Abraham Lincoln's overrules death sentence for the 264 Dakota Indians convicted of murder and a rape, University of Illinois Springfield. This is an article they had dug up relating to the massacres of the presidents. Okay, you have President Abraham Lincoln and Andrew Jackson, and you got the military dude who significantly, these all three men is John the Pope. He was a military captain. And I'm gonna get into all of these people, man, and they really hated the Native Indians, bro. And I got some already pulled up. All right. And this is the Judgment Day. And I know it looks a lot, but I'm going to read very quickly, so pay attention. And this is really very graphic information. So, it says, in the early 19th century, while the rapidly growing United States expanded into the lower South, white settlers faced what considered an obstacle. This area was home to the Cherokee, Creek, Choctaw, and Chickasaw, the Seminole nations. And these Indian nations, in the view of the settlers and many other white Americans, were standing in the way of progress, eager for land and to raise cotton. The settlers pressured the federal government to acquire Indian territory. So you have your basic ass white, so-called white, the Edomites, who are the wicked anyway, all right, who begging their governor, all right, their Pharisee, to take out the Native Indians, who they feel like it's in their way of them gaining money. All right, they see somebody who owns their land. Oh, there's Indians over here. You know how so-called white people be lying anyway. They lie and say they doing something. They, saying these Indians are terrorizing us, and they have to, they talk to the governor. The governor comes down, and they send the military to wipe them out. So you get in the phase of what's really finna happen. All right, this is, in the next paragraph says, Andrew Jackson from Tennessee was a forceful proponent of Indian removal. You see, they're a forceful proponent of Indian removal. In the 1814s, says he commanded the U.S. military forces that defeated a faction of the Creek Nation. In their defeat, the Creek lost 22 million acres of land in southern Georgia, central Alabama. The U.S. acquired more land in 1818 when spurred in part by the motivation to punish the Seminoles for their practice of harboring fugitive slaves. Jackson's troops invaded Spanish Florida. You see that? So the runaway slaves will run to the native Indian tribes so they can avoid conflict with the white settlers. And by doing that, that pissed off the white settlers for them to command the military to force and kill them, to forcefully kill them because they losing profit. They want to know where is this underground railroad is. They want to know who's helping the Negroes, so-called Negroes, all right? All right, so now we getting a picture of the true story, right? So this is from 1814 to 1824. Jackson was instrumental in negotiating 9 out of 11 treaties, which divested the southern tribes in their eastern lands in exchange for lands in the west. The tribes agreed to the treaties for strategic reasons. They wanted to appease the government in the hopes of retaining some of their land, and they wanted to protect themselves from white harassment. You see that? White harassment. What is white harassment? Them going over there being nosy, them, trying to bargain, them trying to, step on their land and take stuff that don't belong to them. Esau does this shit today. So, so-called white man does this shit today, and it's no surprise, bro. We know it's true. All right. But continuing on, says, as a result of the treaties, United States gained control over 3/4 of Alabama and Florida, as well as part of Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, Kentucky, and North Carolina. This was a period of voluntary Indian migration. However, and only a small number of Creeks, Cherokee, and Choctaws actually moved to the new lands. In 1823, the Supreme Court handed down a decision which stated that Indians could occupy lands within the United States, but could not hold title to those lands. Just as you see today, you paying taxes, which means you don't hold no title. Though you have a title, you still can't own it because it's not yours. All right. This is how you can continue to be a slave. Paying taxes. You already bought it, but you still owe. It makes no sense. This is why the Indians was going through so much turmoil, because they did all the work to appease themselves with the settlers. All right, and it never worked. So they had to find other ways. Okay, I'm gonna go back to where I left off. All right, I'm going to go back to where it says, gain control of course, Alabama, Florida, as well as Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina. This was the period of voluntary Indians migration. Yeah, it says in 1823, the Supreme Court handed down a decision which stated that Indian could occupy lands within the United States but could not hold title to the lands. This was United States rights of discovery. All right, they feel like because we discovered a land that was already discovered, we have the right to say who owns it. This is the sick-ass mind of your rulership, America. All right, it says, in response to the great instituted policies of restricting land sales to the government, they wanted to protect what remained of their land before it was too late. All right, so they wanted to stay in their land to protect it. It says, although the 5 Indian nations had made earlier attempts at resistance, many other strategies were nonviolent. So they was trying to compromise, they were trying to, the Indians was just basically trying to make it make sense to where they keep their land. This is what they had already had. Why do we have to give it up? Da 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 da. It says one method was adopted Anglo-American practices such as large-scale farming, Western education, and slaveholding. This earned the nations the designation of the 5 civil tribes. They adopted this policy of assimilation in attempt to coexist with settlers, the war of hostility, and ward off hostility. but it only made whites jealous and resentful. You see that? And just as much as the Black Wall Street, man, we can't do nothing that could benefit ourselves without you so-called white people getting jealous and want to fuck it all up. And that's what y'all do. You come around, you see another people who are making it better than you and striving better than you, who have better things than you, and yet you come and take and steal to destroy. So how are you not the wicked of the earth? How are you not the wicked of the Bible, the wicked of the world the Bible speaks of? Everything of your track record, it basically is an open book for you. You're wicked. You everything that is on earth, you take and steal and spoil for yourself. So how can you be a people of the Lord? You're not. Your blessings came through killing, murder, rape, and robbery. That's how you gain what you have. And another one, it says other attempts involve ceding portions of their land to the United States with the view of retaining control over at least part of their territory or the new territory that they receive in exchange. Some Indian nations simply refuse to leave their land. The Creeks and the Seminoles even waged war to protect their territory. The first Seminole War lasted from 1817 to 1818. The Seminole War aided by the fugitive slaves. So the slaves that ran away from their masters also aided the Seminole Indians in battle, man. All right. Why? Because they was getting taken care of. That was looked after. All right. They knew the lands. The Indians knew the lands. How you think that Harriet Tubman knew how to get all the way from the north back to the south? You think that was just her own intellect? No, she had help from the Indians, man. You know, that just all made sense. All right. How she get through the woods, how she get through those valleys, those hills, those mountains, Rocky Mountains, bro. So she had to know somebody that knew the land, that aided her. It wasn't just her by herself. The story's always halfway fucking told. So continuing on, the Seminoles were aided by the fugitive slaves who have found protection among them and had been living with them for years. It says the presence of the fugitive enraged white planters and fueled their desire to defeat the Seminoles. You see that? When they seen that the Indians was helping the slaves, it pissed them off. It made them so pink and red. You know what I'm saying? The hatred was so overwhelming. They took out of the settlers, even themselves, with the military came and aided the military, man. Just the white settlers aided the military. They took their guns and helped the fucking military wipe their ass out. You know what I'm saying? It says the Cherokee used legal means in their attempts to safeguard their rights. They sought protection from the land-hungry white settlers who continually harassed them by stealing their livestock, burning their towns, and squatting on their land. In 1827, the Cherokee adopted a written constitution declaration themselves to be a sovereign nation. They based this on United States policy and former treaties. Indian nation had been declared sovereign, so they would be legally capable of ceding their lands. Now, the Cherokee hoped to use this status to their advantage. The state of Georgia, however, did not recognize the sovereign status, but saw them as tenants living in state land. Like a poor person who's just traveling and making up a tent, not actually having any form of not actually having any form of being a person, like who being a person of a nation or indigenous, but just a person who's in a damn way. That's how they looked at it, if that makes sense. It says the state of Georgia, however, did not recognize their sovereign status, but saw them as tenants living on the state land. The Cherokee took their case to the Supreme Court, which ruled against them. You see that? Everything came back against them when they tried to make peace. All right, long story short, we're going to go ahead to President Andrew Jackson. All right. And when you go into President Andrew Jackson, this some of the things that I had gotten down from President Andrew Jackson, and I wrote it. I put it in here. It says Andrew Jackson forced all indigenous people to flee from their lands. As the president most associated with the Trails of Tears is Andrew Jackson, who signed the Indian Removal Act into law in 1830, which led to the forced relocation of Native American tribes from their land to the southeast to Indian Territory, resulting in the Trail of Tears. It says the key points about Andrew Jackson and the Trail of Tears policy driver. Jackson actively advocated for the removal of Native American tribes from southeastern United States. Indian Removal Act. This act, signed by Jackson in 1830, authorized the government to negotiate treaties with tribes to acquire the land in exchange for land for west of the Mississippi River. And they said, we'll take this land and give you another land. So-called white man had made that type of deal with the Indians. All right, if you take this land from you, we'll have another land. You can go over there and y'all can take that. That really, they said this and didn't sign on shit. But the Indians trusted them, so they went with what they said. Some of them did. It says the impact on tribes, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, Creek, Chickasaw, and the Seminole were among the tribes forcibly relocated during this period and experiencing extreme hardship and death on the journey. And by the way, they was all escorted by the military. All right, this is Andrew Jackson lived for the killing the natives. All right, during the War of 1812, roughly 2 decades before he became president, General Andrew Jackson wrote to his wife, Rachel, from the battlefield. Now I got this one. This is the one I was just reading, but I think this one is up here. But that's Andrew. But regardless, this is on there, man. This is all on the website. It says, Rachel from the battlefield. Though he was tired and banged up, Jackson was also proud that he had just presided over another successful slaughter of Native Americans. He says, I detached General John Coffee with part of his brigade of cavalry and mounted men to destroy Creektown, he wrote, referring to an area in what is now Alabama. The General Jackson wrote had performed this slaughter in elegant style. More than 170 natives were killed. Still, there was more killing to do. Look, he said he killed already 170 Native Americans. He said, what? Still, there was more killing to do. He was determined to march on. He wrote to the heart of the Creek Nation. This man was straight penetrating the hearts of where there was most congregated at, which means the more he found in a group, the more he was happy to destroy, man. And this is the so-called white man. All right. And this is Abraham Lincoln. Same goddamn thing. You know what I'm saying? They want to say that, let's read it, man. Let's read it. And I'm not going to stay on this too long, but I just want you to know the history of why this is disgusting to celebrate. This is, let me see, Michael Bergland, holder of the chair, nominee B, Distinguished Chair Lincoln Studies at University of Illinois Springfield, is the author of Abraham Lincoln, A Life, the Inner World of Abraham Lincoln, and Lincoln in the Civil War, as well as the editor of many collections of Lincoln primary source materials. Hey, graduates, I don't want to hear that shit. All right, this is in the summer of 1862, the Dakota Indians in Minnesota, understandably angry at white encroachment on their territory. All right, the Dakota Indians, that was all on their territory, and most likely was on their territory without any permission. All right, but they don't ever put that on there because they don't want to no one. They still hide the fact that they are ferocious, savages, man. The white people don't ever want to put how they describe anybody who attacked them, but they want to look as though they are the victim. So we know most of this shit is a lie. Some of this shit is a lie. It says at the government's failure to deliver promised supplies and money to the Dakota Indians, and at the notorious corruption of Indian agents and traders attacked white men, women, and children along the frontier, killing hundreds and driving over 30,000 from their homes. It was the latest massacre of civilians on U.S. soil prior to September 11, 2001. You know that's bullshit. You know that's bullshit. So you compare yourselves. This is how you know they don't care about anybody else but themselves. You compare that to 9/11 that you orchestrated to happen on your own soil. That is crazy. It says after U.S. Army forces under General John Pope put down the rebellion, John Pope put down the rebellion. A military court demanded 303 Dakotas to death. Faced with a potential mass execution, Abraham Lincoln resolved that such an outrage as the indiscriminate hanging of these Indians most certainly shall not take place, according to a Washington newspaper widely regarded as an administration organ, when the president ordered the suspension of the sentences and demanded to see the full and complete record of these convictions. General Pope reported that white Minnesotans are as separated to the last degree. The most horrible massacres have been committed. Children nailed alive to trees, women violated and disemboweled, everything that horrible ingenuity could devise. Therefore, the general warned, if the guilty are not all executed, I think it nearly impossible to prevent the discriminate massacre of all the Indians, old men, women, and children. You see that? Basically, they saying that the Dakota Indians, because they didn't get what was promised to them, they came and killed a lot of people within the city, raping the children. Raping the women and harming the children and the old and young, and nailing them to trees and stuff like that. But brother, who that sounds like hanging from trees? This sounds like Esau done that to them. Okay, why would someone who was waiting on you to do something come harm you? You see what I'm saying? And again, this is written by a university, most likely all white. So, we know Abraham Lincoln was not no savior. Like everybody think, he freed the slaves. No, he didn't, man. He didn't. He was just looking for another big payday. And he only did that so that he could win the Civil War. This is Andrew, I think I already read that. So now you have it. The mass killings, the mass, and this is just only a taste of what really truly happened, man. This is only a taste. You can always keep digging and looking for more of what really happened in those days. And this is going on for years, man. It started at 1717, 17 and 18, all the way down to the 19th century, early 19th century, like the 1920s. So this shit never ended until the 1920s, 1917s. All right. Now I'm going into scripture. This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 12. It says, woe to him that buildeth a high town with blood and establish a city by iniquity. And we know that is all Esau Edom, man, so-called white man. All right. Those who rule in the high seats, the principalities of this earth. All right. Those who orchestrate the ways and the designs of oppression. All right. Which we all face. All right. In this Babylon city, Babylon, the great America. All right. Which is all full of fornication, different doctrines and disbelief. All right. Depriving you of what is true and giving you a lie. All right. It's dark light. It is a place of mourning. It is a place of death, hell itself. All right. And it's spread as an influence all over the earth. All right. Rape, rob, and murder, killings, spoiling, everything that does anything to deprive your mind and spirit and soul, man. This place is made and molded in it. All right. This is the heart of it, because these settlers who came over here has made it that way. All right, this is the new Egypt, the new Sodom and Gomorrah, according to the scriptures, man. All right, this is Jeremiah chapter 17 and 4. It says, and thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. All right, it goes for the fugitive slaves that I just read about was so-called African Americans, which are the true Jews. All right, it says, for you have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever. It says Jeremiah, which is the Israelites. All right, Salakia, because the Israelites is as well. You know, you have the northern kingdom and you have the southern kingdom. All right, and the southern kingdom was the ones who came over here on ships through the Atlantic slave trade. So that Jeremiah chapter 17 and 5, thus says the Lord, cursed be the man that trusteth in man, and maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departed from the Lord. And we know that the Indians, Seminole Indians, and the Native Indians, they had left the way of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Though they still spoke in some Hebrew, but they still left the way of the Heavenly Father Yahweh Shem Yahushua. All right, they became to worship statues in nature itself instead of the one who created it. And the Lord definitely had punished them, all right, and brought judgment upon them with the sword. And we know who the sword is, who? Esau, Edom, all right. So we know that judgment had came upon the northern kingdom because of their sins, man. All right. And they trusted in man. Why? Because they was making treaties with the men, not knowing who their enemy was. This is Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 6. It says, for he shall be like the heath in the desert, and shall not see when good cometh. It says, but he shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, in a salt land, and not inhabit it. And that's why you hear when these Indians come on social media, they tell you that their lands are devastating. They can't grow any plants. Their soil is damp. They have no way of fresh water. It's very harsh over there in the lands of their territory within the United States, especially in the South and North Dakota. All right. This is true. You can look it up on YouTube. Micah 2 and 1. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And this is Esau, Edom, so-called white man. All right. What you see, they had the power of the military. They have the settlers who could tell them, who basically act as their scouts, you know, because they go in there harassing the Native Indians, man. So they're acting as scouts, and they're reporting back to their governor. This is Micah chapter 2 and verse 2. It says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. And what is their heritage? This was their land. This was their heritage. This is where they grew their plants, where they raised their children, where they knew the land. All right. All those things, man, was a place for them, and it was stolen from them. OK. And we know who did it. So-called Esau, oppressing. He's the oppressor of all people, man. Everywhere this man goes, he set up sanctions. He set up his military. And when he does that, he ruleth over their courts. He ruleth over their banks. All right. He ruleth over all their assets, and it becomes his. And basically, they just there living on a U.S. territory. And that's all Central America as well. All right. Micah chapter 2 and 3 says, therefore, thus says the Lord, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go hotly, for this time is evil. And this is the time. It says in Micah chapter 2 and verse 4, it says, in that day shall one take up a parable against you, and lament with a doleful lamentation, and say, we be utterly spoiled. He hath changed the portion of my people, And it says, how have he removed it from me? Turning away, he have divided our fields. You see that? And that's what they did to the Native Americans, man, and all their tribes. All right. This is what he has done to Israel, man. This is what he's done all across the four corners of the earth. This man has divided all nations and called it upon his last name and took the indigenous names away. Just like as I read, man, you know, the Creekland was Alabama. Before Alabama was called Creekland because that was the tribe that dwelled there, that dwelleth there. All right. And here in America. So, you know, this is something that you must take heed to, something you must understand, because this is what the Bible all teaches. There's no new thing under the sun, man. All right. Which states that in it's stated in Ecclesiastes. It says in Micah chapter 2:8, it says, even of late my people is risen up as an enemy. You put off the robe with the garment, frow them that pass by secretly, as men advised from war. Says, the women of my people have ye cast out from their pleasant houses, from their children ye have taken away my glory forever. Says in Micah chapter 2:10, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted. It shall destroy you even with a sore destruction. We know this place is not our rest. We know this place is not for us applying for a job. We know we're not. We know we have to fight to get hired on. We know we have to fight to get what we mostly deserve. That's why most jobs who hire you on want to keep you there until they pay you the full pay. But you are already doing the work of the full pay. So this is what? Oppression. This is slavery. Modern day is slavery. But being blinded by it because you're getting somewhat money off of it. Brothers, I mean, niggas niggas is just, you know, do anything just to have it. Oh, well, I got money. Oh, I can do this. I can do that. That is just you being a good old nigga. You know, when you really wake up to the system and what it's for, it's not for you. It was never for you. It was never created for you. Every time you understand something that these white people plot and plan, they look at you with hatred. Because how can a nigga like yourself that live lowlier than me understand my degree of thought? And that's how they look at you. Who is this nigga that wants to always speak his fucking voice, his mind, and yet be true? Why, like, we need to shut this man up. We need to shut him up. We need to quiet this man. We need to hide this man before he intrigues other people to listen to him. You know, but he's a powerful spokesman. We should destroy this guy. You know, he can turn our fortune into a devastation, and the fortune that was built on lies, that was built on oppression. You know, that's America for you. So why would you want to love a place like this? They never repaid our people, but they only talk about the Holocaust. The Holocaust was never in America, but it's taught to our children. It's taught to it's taught in our schools, and it's forced upon us to know these things that has nothing to do with us. So this is a place full of lies and deceit. Only thing that lies true is the scriptures of Yahweh Shah, which is the Bible, which teaches the history of the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, man, which are the true Hebrew Israelites. And I hope all things was edifying. With that, I'm going to say shalom.